So despite your status, whether you are a prisoner or you're not, then you need your human rights respected. So I say security coexists with human rights because human rights, protection of human rights increases security at the level of dynamic security.
Professor, welcome to Econsight Lab. It's truly an honor to have you here with us. Professor, this platform was created under one simple conviction that some of Africa's greatest intellectual conversations never leave policy meetings, conference halls, or classrooms. So the mission is to bring those conversations to the public, not to simplify scholarship, but rather to make it accessible. So thank you, Professor, for honoring our invitation.
You're welcome, John.
Professor, I would like to start from somewhere unusual because when people read your biography, they see the awards, they see the titles, but none of those explain how you became the scholar that we see today. So I would like to ask, who was Jostinah before the professor? Who was Jostinah before the professor or the correctional leader that you are or the international expert that you are? What experiences shaped the scholar we see today?
Jostinah Mwang'ombe is a Kenyan girl born and bred in Taita Taveta County, married to a Giriama, so a mother of three girls, yeah, and an economist by profession, but a career correction officer with over 20 years of experience. Currently, I'm based at the Shimolatio Boston Institution and Boys Education Center as the superintendent in charge. I mentor a team of young people as the patron Taita Taveta Youth Alliance. I was taught several values, but the one that I carry most and the one that has shaped the professor that you are hosting today is empathy. Empathy is one of the fundamental pillars of what you call Rogerian psychology. Rogerian psychology is the one tagged to one Carl Rogers. So I went to school, Bura High School, Bura National School. Nowadays they call them senior school, so it's a C1 school. After that, I joined the university. I pursued a bachelor's degree in economics. I joined the Kenya Prison Service, yes, out of empathy, and I think I'll explain this later. And then I went back to school again as a prison officer, continued with my profession, and I pursued a master's degree in economics, policy, and management, then later on a PhD, doctorate in economics. So my inspiration is actually from that background that I grew up feeling that I need to support the world. And that's why I do all this. I work, I write, I interact, I mentor, I speak so that I impact on people. So what shaped me is that empathy and also the that what do you call the urge to support people out of their problems. That's why that is what has shaped me to where I am.
So, Professor, when did economics start becoming interesting to you?
Thank you very much. I chose economics because I realized that every social issue has an economic dimension. Yeah, when you look at poverty, crime, education, healthcare, and even justice, they are all influenced by how society allocated resources. First of all, as I mentioned, I chose economics because all social issues revolve around economics. And then while there, I got what I wanted. And that's why I've never dropped economics. Everyone would have thought of me maybe picking another course at the level of master's or PhD that relates to my correction work. But I've always developed my profession in economics, even as I work as a career correction officer, because economics actually provides a solution to most social issues, including criminality and also issues of injustice.
Today, you are known for correctional reforms and human rights, but economics was your first language. How has
Yes,
economics
yes.
continued to shape the way you think about justice, leadership, and development?
Yeah, you see, John, when many people hear the word economics, they immediately think of money, banks, inflation, taxes, or financial markets. And I want to tell you, all these, that is, this money, banks, inflation, taxes, or financial markets, are important in relation to economics. We have other components, important components, like economics is about human choice under conditions of scarcity. And I think this is what, as an economist, I learned at that basic level during my undergrad. The first thing that I learned is choice theory. So, apart from money, banks, inflation, taxes, and financial markets, as I've mentioned, there's this issue of human choice under conditions of scarcity. So, while looking at this as an economic concept, it is important to note that while there, as economists, we examine how individual institutions and governments allocate limited resources to satisfy unlimited human needs. Working with Kenya Prison Service as a correction officer, both in Kenya and beyond, I've realized that whatever affects these institutions most are scarcity of resources. So, over the years, John, I have come to appreciate that economics is not merely about wealth creation. And I want to mention one Nobel laureate called Amartya Sen. I don't know, Amartya Sen. With my tight accent, I don't know whether everyone will get it there, but it is Amartya Sen. And he challenged the traditional economics, John, and he introduced the word capability approach. So in this one, he now brought in how economics can be applied in other areas, including correction practice.
Professor, many people see prisons as simply places of punishment, but you seem to see
Yes.
them very differently. I would like you to help us understand that. What does the society misunderstand most about the correctional institutions?
Yeah. John, what you've said is very true. One of the greatest challenges facing correctional systems today and even globally is public perception. Because many citizens, they still imagine prison primarily as places of punishment. We were there. So imprisonment was indeed centered on retribution. That one I cannot deny. But the modern correctional philosophy today, John, is that we recognize correction work under the four elements. That is correction, prisons for punishment, of course, and not punishment that people come to prison to be punished. Imprisonment by itself is a punishment. So there's punishment, there's deterrence. Deterrence comes in that when someone commits a crime and is put behind bars by the court, because our work is correction, not punishment, that one will deter other people who had the same mindset not to commit the crime. Then the current one that makes prisons not to be that perception, what I mentioned earlier, the two, and that is rehabilitation and reintegration, helps now the correctional services to have this new face that they are places where people experience their potential and even move to self-actualization, as what was said by Abraham Maslow. It's prisons today are places where people are having their physiological needs met. There's enough clothing, there's enough food for them provided by the government, and that is the Kenyan case. And then there's a lot of safety and security. We have the infrastructures which have been improved. There's also training of staff. We have professional staff like I am and others. And then we have people, we allow our inmates even to participate outside there. So the sense of belonging, and that is level three in the Abraham Maslow hierarchy of needs. And then they now have their self-esteem because human rights are protected within prisons bars. Rehabilitation is there. People are realizing what they can do. they can now have a future even behind bars in terms of skill development, and then they are self-actualizing even behind bars because they are able now to mentor other people. Their voices are heard outside there through media collaboration. So prisons are not places for punishment.
You've spent nearly 2 decades inside the correctional system. How did
Yes.
those experiences begin changing the economist inside you?
You see, as I mentioned earlier, economics is not about the issue of money, banks, inflation, and the rest. Economics is about allocation of resources, issues of scarcity, and how to manage resources, including human beings. So, the nexus, if I got you well, the nexus between my studying economics and my practice as a correction officer is anchored on a few concepts that I got through my study as an economist. And one of them is the concept of scarcity and supply. Within prisons walls, we have issues of contrabands. Contrabands are things that are prohibited, which find their way into behind bars, into prisons or behind bars. And most of these happen when we have open prisons where inmates are allowed to go out, interact, and then come back into the institution. So, in this, I can say my learning economics, especially this concept of scarcity and supply, has helped me to even reduce violence behind bars. Because by making sure that there are no contrabands in the prisons where I manage, I have been a manager in 5 institutions. When as a manager, I restrict trafficking, that is bringing in of contraband, then by extension, I avoid violence behind bars. Because since these are items that are prohibited, but people need them inside for leisure, then when we allow them in, the scarcity issue raises the price. And you remember, inmates, especially for Kenyan case again, are not allowed to keep money with them. So what does it mean? There is a black market that happens where people trade in these things, either trading with the meals that they are given, trading with, I don't know, and other things. So economics helps me at that level. The other one is the issue of incentives. For us to what do you call, to encourage good behavior within our inmates. And let me talk about the institution that I've been and in charge. I've been the manager and I've been a manager in, and that is the adult institutions and the juvenile institutions. We have progressive systems that are different for adults and for the juvenile, and each stage has its incentives and privileges. So such privileges fall under the incentives that we study as economists. So when we increase the rewards, rewards can be visitation. We have inmates who have good behavior, they're allowed to be visited more times. We have inmates who are allowed to watch TV because they have stayed for a long time and they have zero offenses behind bars. So the incentive concept comes in even in my correction work as a prison officer and as an economist. Then there's this one of opportunity cost. Opportunity cost in economics is the value of the foregone alternative. In our resource allocation, especially staffs, you have several duties, activities, and responsibilities within a correctional facility. And there are times that you prioritize one against the other. You need now to use the theory or the concept of opportunity cost for me to be able to say, let's have several staff in this cell or in this activity and fewer on the other side. Of course, based on security, because prisons is about safe custody of offenders. Then another one is the concept of labor economics. Uh, Labor economics, in this one, we have a what we call prison labor. Inmates will cook for themselves, will do cleanliness for themselves, and that is not a what do you call, that is not slavery, but it's allowed even within whatever I mentioned earlier, the Mandela rules. Inmates are supposed to do some work that relates to their hygiene and other things. So labor economics teaches us.
Professor, would an example of a high schooler
So
who is
yes,
expected to
yes.
do
Yeah.
his or her own laundry fit?
Yeah, but you see, for prisons, for school, they have non-teaching staffs who are cooks. For prisons, we utilize their labor to for them to cook. For others, we have those who cook for others. There are those who do cleanliness. Then we have inmates who learn skills. I told you that we have four things that we do with our inmates as the correctional system: punishment, deterrent. Then I mentioned about rehabilitation. Under rehabilitation, we have skills training, we have education, formal education. For my institution, I have CVE. I have formal education 844 system. That one which is phasing out. So you need to put inmates in skills training, depending on the job, on the labor market outside there. So you need to match whatever pushed the inmate into crime. Like we have an inmate who came in because of stealing, and the other inmate also came in because of same offense, stealing, which is maybe a misdemeanor. So as we do what we call the treatment plan, the individual treatment plan, despite coming in with the same offense, as correctional officer, we craft their treatment pathways depending on what Andrew and Bonita called in their model the R&R model, the R&R, the risks of recidivism, the criminogenic needs of the inmate, and the responsivity, the ability of the inmate to absorb the skills. So that by the end of the day, no inmate goes home without training because maybe they were illiterate. So we have several causes for the inmates. So we need to match their skills with their criminogenic needs, with their risk of recidivism and their responsivity. So in such, I apply labor economics, you see, because I look at what the inmate will be able to apply outside there, then match it with the skills that we have. Yeah. So that is how economics has shaped my correctional practice. And yeah, there's that makes us.
Can public policy truly change lives, or do institutions change only when people change?
Yes, policy can affect people. And then the other side now, it's also about an individual decision to uptake the skills that are available. We are not allowed to force inmates into taking up skills while in prison. So, as much as we have policies on rehabilitation of inmates, that each inmate should come in and go out with a skill, inmates who refuse to work cannot be forced to work. That is the thing. So, there's that, as I said, it's dual. Policy, yes, can encourage, and also people can also decide or choose what to do with their lives. And I think that is the humanistic approach. In humanistic approach, people are given the core conditions, the environment to thrive, but you choose yourself whether to thrive or not. That is it.
Professor, one thing that fascinates me while reading your profile is that your research does not stay on paper, it becomes practice. You've served in women's prisons, juvenile institutions, peacekeeping missions, and
Yes,
international organizations,
yes,
and now you are in academia.
yes.
I would like to ask, how do you move an idea from research into policy and finally into implementation?
I think this one I'll give a very simple answer. Scholarships solve problems. Scholarship should solve problems. Research, yeah, research only becomes meaningful when it informs policy and improves institution and changes lives. So for me, every time I interact with an inmate, anytime I'm outside there in the community or I engage internationally, I'm picking points of need, points that help me to develop, even to write, even to support. As I mentioned, and as you've rightly said, I sit and do a lot of research. Recently, when I got engaged with the schools, around 10 schools to support them, and I'm sure if they were asked to rate my work, they would tell you that it was excellent. Immediately I finished that, I came back and started writing my seventh book. the figure, and the mirror. And I think I'll be launching this book in August. And what does it mean? Every time, as a person, not only me, but even I encourage every scholar outside there, anytime you interact with people, you need to find because research is about finding a deeper meaning to what you see with your naked eyes. I don't want to take the deeper definition, but for a lay person, research is all about just going deeper to know why is this happening. Because when I was called, I want to pick this one thing of school unrest and explain this your question in answering this question. When I went there, I interacted and with all confidentiality because I don't want to expose what I did with the schools. I kept asking myself, is it that the schools that are too bad that children want to burn them down and go back home? Or is it the family? And that's why I'm telling you that I went ahead to now start writing my book, and very soon it will be outside there, the figure and the mirror, reflection, not deflection, saying that it is the family which is unstructured, which has no rules, that is failing the schools, holding other factors constant, ceteris paribus. I need to use that.
I understand. Many young researchers believe that publication is the destination. You seem to believe that publication is the beginning.
For me,
Why?
I don't believe that. Yeah, people should think beyond publication because your work is important if it goes beyond the shelf. If it transforms lives, if it influences policy, then that is the best publication that you have achieved as a scholar. So for me, beyond publication is your work transforming lives, impacting on policy and government outside there.
Professor, you've written 6 books. Each one of them seem to address different dimensions of
Uh-huh.
justice, leadership, and human dignity. I would love a walk through them. Let's start with the Still Symphony. What inspired this
Mhm.
metaphor? Why Still Symphony?
Wow, wow, wow. Yeah. So my first book is the Still Symphony, and this is my memoir. If anyone wants to understand me, whatever you've been asking me here, why economics to correctional to whatever, to Giriama, to be a wife there, it's in that book, The Still Symphony. It shows my inspiration of who I am today from the childhood, what has shaped me as a scholar and a professor and a correctional expert I am today.
Professor, looking at your second book, Unleashing Her Potential,
Yes,
I agree, you worked extensively
yes.
with women. Now, in your view, what remains the greatest barrier to women's leadership in Africa today?
It is the woman herself. Yes. You want me to
Professor,
explain what
okay,
is the woman
kindly expound.
have said, and I want to repeat it. The woman herself, not other women. The woman herself. Because you see, with the formerly we used to talk of a what do you call the framework, the legal framework, which was limiting. We would talk about the child support, caregiving issues that hold women behind in terms of supporting or even uh, participating in even the job market. But today we have all these in place. So it's upon a woman just to work within themselves to realize that they have a bigger potential even to impact wider than where they are or what they are doing now. So it's about a mental health issue now rather than what was external formerly. So most women are still tied to where they were, just like the story of the chicken that was once tied to a tree, and then later on when it was released, it remained there. So it's about us to rise like a phoenix. We go through a lot as women. I want to appreciate that because apart from me being a correctional officer and all those titles, I'm a certified SGBV instructors trainer. and I've interacted with women who are really suffering. They have been they are experiencing SGBV both at home and even at the workplace. But you can rise above that. Most people are using whatever they're experiencing because of the legal framework and the protections that are around women, even to explore further and unleash further. So for me, John, there's nothing that is impeding women from unleashing their potential. And this book, I've explained different ways in which women can leverage on what is within them and around them to reach their full potential.
Professor, the book Woman at the Center, you consistently
The
place women
woman
at the
at the
center of
center.
peace building. Why?
You see, the book, The Woman at the Center, the, the book, The Woman at the Center, I have it here. This book actually is a publication that came from that I did from my actually this was my thesis during my master's degree. I did a research on trade liberalization and female employment in East Africa community. I combined Okun's law and Philip's curve to develop my own model. So in this, I am just arguing that we should put more effort on equity as much as equality. The issue matters women, men, equality is not something new in the market today. But what is lacking is equity. Equity is different from equality because in the with the lens of equality, we say that all women should have dignified work. All women, that is equality. But issues of gender and women have the intersectionality. We have an African woman who is semi literate, also looking up to this policy or this what do you call affirmative declaration that that women should have dignified work. But this lady is semi-literate or is even illiterate. Are you telling me that when they go searching for a job, especially managerial job, will they have the same level of whatever of will they negotiate in the same level with a woman who has a PhD like me or a woman with a master's degree? So when you talk about equity, we move beyond equality. So we talk about women having dignified work, but we move to now to separate the women. That is what we call the intersectionality. The women in the rural area, the women in Africa, the women in the sub-Saharan Africa, the women. Then when we do that, that is now what I recommended in that thesis and in this book, that we should look at women not with the lens of equality, but equity, for us to realize what we call a optimum participation of women in the in East Africa within the trade liberalization policies and globalization. Thank you.
Professor, your book, My Web, seems like your most personal work. What does My Web represent?
The strength of a web, it's also about teamwork. So in this book, The Strength of a Web, I brought in several biblical stories to explain the importance of collaboration and teamwork. So that's why the book is The Strength of a Web, The Strength of More Than One. That is teamwork. And I talked about the web because I looked at the relationship that we have as a spider's web. So there's that analogy, the spider's web. Each string is connected to another and makes that web very strong. So I looked at the relationship that we have as individuals, the work relationships, the family relationships, as ones which are held together by different peoples. Again, going back to the Bronfenbrenner ecological system theory, he said we are affected by different environments which are interconnected. So there's the issue of the web in every part of us in life, whether at the family level, work level, church, in every ecosystem. Thank you.
Looking at transforming juvenile justice, this might be your most impactful work.
Yeah.
What motivated the juvenile correctional model? What problem are you trying to solve?
In this book, and of course, it's attached to the model that you just mentioned. After working for Kenya Prison Service over 20 years, interacting with children here in Kenya, both the girls at the Kamai Girls Boston Institution and now with the boys at Shimolatua Boys Institution, the International Institute for Justice and the Rule of Law based in Malta, I also support on advising on children in a counterterrorism contest. I corroborated everything that I picked around, including my international assignments with the UN as a peacekeeper at the Democratic Republic of Congo, and so many of the things that I've done within my work as a correctional officer and the practice, yeah, that goes with it. So I developed a model that embodies the international instruments that support juvenile justice. One of them, and which is very key in this book, is the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child of 1989. I picked so much from the four principles. The first one being a non-discrimination of children. The second one, the best interest of the child being at the center of all issues that relate to children and decisions. Then the opinion of the child counts, and then the participation of the child. Yeah, the opinion of the child and the participation of the child, and of course their survival and determination. That is the four principles. So I developed the model for children in Kenya. So I, of course, brought in the domestic law, and the main one is the Constitution of Kenya, Article 53, the Children Act 2022. I also brought in other. They have Havana rules, Beijing rules at the international level, and also the regional instrument called the African Charter on the Welfare of Children, the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Children. So I looked at all these and then developed a model, which I am very proud to say that we piloted it here at the Juvenile Correction Facility for boys. And as I'm speaking, all the other institutions, I mentioned about four. So we have for three Boston institutions and one Duluth Corrective Training Center. All of them are now borrowing from this model. So I'm proud to be the author or the initiator of this. And now I felt that people will need to read about this. So I again, just like that thesis, the master's thesis, where I developed the woman at the center, I decided to write and publish a book explaining now this model in depth. So that's how I came up with this, Transforming Juvenile Justice. It's a trauma-informed guidebook for juvenile correction, a keen lens of Kenya's Boston institution from the practitioner's lens, and that is me.
Looking at beyond the behavior, even the title itself is intriguing. When
So
people judge behavior, what often are they missing?
if people judge behavior according to what is in this book and the research that I did, as I mentioned, is that sometimes the behavior that we see, not only for children, because this one is purely for children, child justice actors, even for us adults, some of the things that we are doing now, including the interactions that we have, the fears that we have, according to psychoanalysts, they were crafted in us long time ago. They are the mental pictures, what you call the schematas, or schematas. These are mental pictures which were developed long time ago when we were growing up. Other psychologists also go further to even conception and pregnancy time. What happened during that time affects us through our life. So the way we even build our relationships, some of the challenges that people are experiencing now in their marriages are related to how they experienced in their families, how they saw their parents interact. Someone enters into a marriage while already having scars and pains that relates to how their parents, the sexual and gender-based violence, the intimate partner violence that was happening in their houses. not in the house, in their at the family level. So beyond the behavior is about seeing beyond what people are doing. And let me put this out. I'm not saying that people should ignore deviant behavior. No, someone should take full responsibility of the actions that they have done in terms of crime responsibility. So if someone is to be jailed, let that person go to jail. But what I'm advising is, even as we look at a person or a child as problematic, there are other factors that are affecting them. Mental health issue. We have children who are suffering from anxiety. Anxiety is a comes in when children suffer what you call adverse childhood experiences, or are undergoing some violence, even at home or at school. They develop anxiety. When someone has anxiety, there are several spectrums. We have agoraphobia, we have other types of anxieties. So if someone is suffering from any strain, let me call them strain, quote in quote, of anxiety, they can act in a way, they can hit other people. So they come in as a criminals or deviant children for children, because we don't call children criminals. We don't refer to them as criminals, but deviants. They come in as children who have assault cases. But when you go back, they might be having a dysfunctional family background. They are not satisfied with how their parents are treating them at home. So they have depression, they have aggression. So how do they show it out? By hitting others, assaulting one another, or fighting. And when this is taken, and then when this is reported and they are processed within the juvenile justice system or criminal justice system, according to the penal code cap 63, laws of Kenya, this is an offense punishable by imprisonment. So people find themselves behind bars, whether as adults or children. But when you go deeper into the roots, they have been having something they're struggling with, either mental health or difficulties at the family level, difficulties in marriages, which go into the workplace, and you find someone assaulting even their managers. Then they are arrested and they are brought behind bars with cases like assault causing bodily harm. But when you follow up, there are underlying issues. So beyond the behavior is about the underlying things that affect our behavior in public, whether good behavior or bad behavior.
Professor, you've led correctional facilities, you've trained officers, you've advised governments, you've worked with the United Nations, and you've also taught students. Which of these roles taught you the most about leadership?
And all the roles taught me so much about leadership. But what I can say generally in each role, because when I mention about a correctional service, I've been a leader for a very long time. As I've said, this is my fifth institution. When it comes to international support, yes, I have been there as a leader, because for the Democratic Republic of Congo, I was seconded there as an advisor, mentor, and trainer. You see, all those are leadership roles. So what I can say is that, and of course, with my CBO, the Iron Sharpens Iron Mama Africa CBO, I'm actually the executive chair and the founder. So you see, in all these visibilities, I take the leadership role. What I can say in brief, as you say, leadership is influence through service. How you serve is how you influence, and that is leadership.
Appreciating that leadership often requires difficult decisions. Has there been a moment where
Yes.
your principles were tested, and what did you learn?
Yeah, you see, I don't know whether I call them principles or values. In my life, I have bare minimums, what I call my personal values. And one of my bare minimum, and you'll be shocked, after God is my family, not even my work. After God is my family. So there's one time that my that value that value was tested. And since that time, I learned a lot. And I want to tell you how I turned that lemon into lemonade. I was for a very long time, since the year 2005, I operated with my family. Like where I worked with my husband as a colleague, and we used to have our children with us as one family. So I didn't even know or even thought of having a friend because my family was there. So my family doubled as my best friends in everything I did. Then one time I was transferred from Machakos, where I was in charge of Machakos Women Prison, to Busia Women Prison. So that meant that I was to leave my family behind. Actually, I left my family behind. So I had to put my children in a boarding school and go there alone at the border, Busia border. So that is the time I was tested. My principles revolved around the family. So I valued my family, the bare minimum. And let me tell you, actually, the professor I am today was developed through that separation because I now looked for something which I can use to commit my free time now that my family was miles away. And I leveraged on virtual training and professionalization of my work. So by the time I was leaving Machakos to Busia, I had already completed my master's degree. So with the distance, I searched for a PhD, which can allow me to learn virtually. And that's how I landed at the Atlantic International University, US, where I could join classes at night because during nighttime here, US is daytime. So I would join classes, participate with the rest at night, and that is the time that I knew was the time for my family cook and eat together. So I would spend that time learning. And that's how I cleared my PhD doctorate in economics. By that, I think and I know if I was not separated from my family, I wouldn't have taken that choice. So I want to say it was a challenge, but I challenged it and I challenged myself. And today I hold that highest academic paper, courtesy of that. Thank you.
Professor, you've spent years training officers on Mandela rules, Bangkok rules, and human rights. Yet human rights
Yeah.
are often misunderstood. How do you respond to the
Yeah.
the fact that people see human rights as obstacles to security?
Mhm. That is a misconception because for me, human rights and security can coexist. How? Security is divided into three levels. That is my understanding. The first level is what we call physical security. The second level, and physical security is about the buildings. Now, talking about correctional services, you cannot say you are holding inmates or prisoners securely if the buildings are not strong enough. So that is physical security. I know you've not been behind bars as an inmate, but maybe you must have visited a prison. And at the gate there, you have people who will take your ID, record it, yes, and even search you or search your bags. That is another level of security. And we call it procedural security. It's a procedure for every visitor to be searched. Of course, to confiscate any object that is prohibited. Then the third level of security is dynamic security. Dynamic security is about the relationship and the conditions. And that is now where is the place of human rights. Human rights helps us to provide safe, secure, and humane conditions. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 talks of rights and freedoms which cannot be limited. And the first one is freedom from torture, inhumane or degrading conditions or treatment. If a prison or an institution does not respect the rights of persons, because beyond that quote unquote criminal, there is the human being. And human rights is about the rights of persons or the freedoms that belong to everyone by virtue of being human beings. So, despite your status, whether you are a prisoner or you're not, then you need your human rights respected. So, I say security coexists with human rights because human rights, protection of human rights increases security at the level of dynamic security.
Professor, you've also served with the United Nations in Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yes.
Conflict changes societies in profound ways. What lessons from that experience should an African policymaker never forget?
From my international peace work, the lessons that I want to share, here is that peace is built through strong institutions. Peace is built through strong institutions, justice and inclusive leadership. So, generally, John, sustainable peace begins one by investing in people, and secondly, creating opportunities that reduce conflict. That's the much I can say.
Professor, drawing from your experiences across academia, government, international organizations, and communities, looking across Africa today, what gives you hope?
What gives me hope with Africa is that Africa has enormous potential to support innovation and the young population.
What worries you?
What worries me is the level of unemployment and crime rates around our young people. I'm not talking about the older age. I'm talking about the young people because they are the leaders. Nowadays, we don't talk of the future leaders, but they are the leaders of today and tomorrow. So that's what worries me most. As a correctional officer, the numbers of young people behind bars across African countries is high. That worries me, and the level of unemployment because economically, that already is a push factor to criminality and also imprisonment. So that worries me.
Professor, if you could change one policy tomorrow, what will it be?
The policy that I would change is you see, hey, that one caught me off guard. One policy that I would change is the education policy. You see why? Because the policies have created this misconception that it's only the school that teaches people, but we are having other environments that teach people, and the number one is the family. So education should not be paged to formal education in schools, but should extend to the informal learning that happens by imitation by our children at home, because that is what is messing up the world today in terms of learners, the unrest in schools, and the blame game, the figure and the mirror.
Professor, most of our audience consists of students, young researchers, early career professionals, people trying to make sense of the world. I would like to ask a few questions on their behalf. What makes an outstanding research?
Outstanding research is that one which solves real problems.
What mistakes do graduate students repeatedly make?
The mistakes that they make is copycatting other people's work.
Is publishing enough, or should the scholars actively engage the society?
Yes, publishing is not enough because not all people can read your work. Nowadays, very few people, in fact, when you publish and put your work in hard copy, nowadays we have soft materials that we can engage with and interact with. But for many people who are actually affected by the problems that most of us researchers are going outside there to even find solutions for are the people who cannot even access, if not afford, to buy a book. So, as I have done, I want to encourage the researchers and scholars outside there that you write your book and make sure that you have a speaking point or platforms where you can now change the published work into talking points and engage with real people and get feedback from that. That will be now the real change from your work.
How do we build a scholarship that outlives us?
How do we build scholarship that outlives us? Is that be diverse in the way you spread your knowledge outside there. You should also have people paged to your thought or your what you believe in. For me, apart from publishing and having my work outside there in hard copy and soft copy, I also registered a community based organization with a good number of people who are outside there. And all the values and value systems in my published work are expressed in the programs that I offer outside there. So I have a whole generation whom I pass to information and who work with the community on my behalf or with me. So with that, we outlive our work because when we are gone, as you've mentioned, this book will remain in that shelf. When we are gone, there's a whole organization that will thrive because there's a leadership or there's a team that is autonomous to who I am as a person. So that is how I believe our work can outlive us.
Professor Jostinah Mwang'ombe, thank you for sharing not only your scholarship, but also the conviction that has
Yes.
helped shape your life's work.
Thank you too. What I want to say, John, is that in this world, I think knowledge is important at a personal level, but its greatest value, the greatest value of knowledge is when you use it to restore hope, protect dignity, influence policy, and transform lives.